All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. I got more content coming at you today that you've come to expect from this channel. So thanks for subscribing. Go ahead and smash that like button and ring the bell for my Patreon subscribers. We got more content coming your way. This is the Teenage Engineering TP-7. And for some reason, when this was first announced, everybody kind of seemed to be into it. I mean, besides everybody whining about the TE prices, even this one wasn't so much hated in terms of pricing. Maybe when the TX6 was first announced, that kind of established the form factor of how big it was, and of course the price point. So when TP7 came along, it wasn't so totally crazy that it was this small and this expensive. But overall, this seems to be pretty positively received by the community online. Been reading all the reviews, all the forums, all the posts over there on Reddit and the internets, and people seem to be intrigued by this. They don't really hate it as much as the TX6. I mean, when the TX6 first came out, people really hated it. When it was first announced, I mean, people were just, they couldn't believe it. And I mean, even today, TX6 still gets made fun of a little bit, but I think since the TX6 came out, people seem to like it a lot. It is a really great functional unit. I use mine all the time. I love it so much. But for some reason, it seems like this TP7, people have embraced it a little bit better, captured the imagination, maybe because of this wheel here and the rocker on the side. I don't know. But people seem to be pretty curious about this, of course, even though they don't want to pay the high price. But here it is. Looks pretty nice. And the first thing that's different from the TX6, of course, is the packaging. It's rumored that TE is going to make this packaging available for the TX6 users who bought before this packaging was available. It's this hard plastic case, and it took me a second, not gonna lie, it took me a second to figure out exactly how to open it up. You can see here on this corner, there's a little bit of an indentation. What you wanna do is go ahead and put your finger in there and pull a little bit, because it turns out that on the inside, there's a magnet there, and you can see back in there, there's a metal plate that the magnet attaches to. So it takes a little bit of effort upon first opening to kind of figure out how much force is needed and in which exact direction to pull. You're not opening it like a box, like with a lid or anything, it just slides out. And yeah, it took me a couple minutes to figure that out. Of course, with the the TP7 inside, you didn't really want to pop it out there and have it tumble on the floor. So the TP7 fits inside here. You'll notice that the 1/4" adapter can't be in when it's in the plastic case. Go ahead and take that out, and then the just drops right in there like that. And of course, the USB cable and the adapter and the manual is over here on this side. And as some people have noticed, you can also store the TX6 on that side as well. Of course, again, take the adapter out, and then both units fit in there side by side. And you can have both of them into one case like that. Kind of handy. Yeah, why not? It feels nice. I could throw this in my bag. I wouldn't worry about either of them. I mean, on the other hand, both those units are super small, and since they're in there at an angle, it does take up more space in one way than it would need to. And the other thing to notice is that if you're going to have your turntable set up there with your double TP7 set up with your plastic case, which of course is what you want to do, that's not going to fit in there because you got the rocker here on the side. So the double plastic case scenario, you're just looking at the TP7, the TX6, and they fit in there pretty good. And the other thing I did pick up, I went ahead and got the triple accordion case, and so we can see how that's going to look. You'll notice it has two spots of Velcro here on this side for closing. You can put one unit in there and close that up, and it will hold one of them in there with it closed, just at that second Velcro layer there, just barely. You can get it to close there just to hold one. But of course, when you expand it to all three, there's the Velcro on the other side that allows the case to expand all the way. You can see what that looks like here with all three of them in there. And of course, eventually you're going to have your TX6 in there with your TP7 and your CM15, unless you're going to do this one right here, which is DJ setup with your mixer and your two turntables. And again, this is pretty solid, not too bad. You still have Tobias having this set up there at Super Booth with the CM15 inside there with the TX6 and TP-7. It's not too bad. And actually there is room on the accordion case, in case you're wondering, there is room to actually have the adapters in there with the Velcro closed. I'll try to show that. And I thought it felt pretty good when I had all three of the units here in the accordion bag. I would again feel fine throwing that in my backpack. Not going to worry about it too much. It feels pretty solid. I mean, all the units are built great. There you can see the Velcro closes just fine with the 1/4 inch adapters in there, so no problem at all. This is a pretty nice little setup. And again, for my taste, I'd probably throw this in my backpack. This holds 3 units, pretty compact. I mean, it's just the size of the 3 of them basically, as opposed to having the, you know, the extra space. It is a hard case, I'll give you that. It is pretty nice to have both those units in there, but you get all this wasted space here on the side and here. And I don't know about you, but space in my backpack is at a premium, especially when I'm on tour. So I think I'm gonna roll with this. Yeah, and then you got your 2 turntables and your mixer. So that's pretty sweet. All right, let's keep going and dive right in. All right, now we're gonna check out some basic functionality like playback. So I went ahead and loaded a WAV file onto here. And the way I did that was connected the USB-C up to my laptop, which I use a Mac. So I had to download the TE Field app, which is an MTP client, right? Because Mac doesn't do that natively or whatever. I guess, I don't know. I've never used a PC, but I just know I need to have this app to connect to my Mac. But that's pretty easy. You get a file structure there. You get your recordings, your library, and your memos. So I just went into my library and dragged a WAV file into there. And when you connect it up to your computer to get it to be read by the MTP, don't turn it on. So you just want to have it turned off. And if you just connect the USB-C to your laptop and you got that app open, the app will connect to it automatically. If you have this turned on and you try to connect it, it'll say that the device is busy or something. So you just want to make sure that you have it turned off when you connect it. Then you can access the root folder and just drag and drop your files onto here. So then I can go ahead and turn it on and try to do some playback. So now you'll notice when I turn it on, the screen goes blank. And at first I was like, that's because I don't have any memos or recordings on here. So it's just like a blank screen. So I'll just go ahead and toggle the mode switch, but then nothing happens there. So then if I turn this back a little bit, then the logo comes back. But okay, now when I go this way, yep, the volume goes down and I've turned it off. I turn it back on, the volume's going up, kind of, or what's happening? It had been glitching out that when I turn the volume up, there, you see the volume went all the way back down. Now we're back to the low. I don't know, this thing's glitching out. It's just out of the box. I don't know, I guess I have to do a factory reset. I did update the firmware. I haven't done a factory reset. I'll do that here in a second. I just want to let you know that I was having some, I don't know what's happening. Maybe that's supposed to be like, this should be maximum volume here. But who knows? Anyway, let's see if we can get it to work here. Cool. Is it happy? Yes. So now I can cycle through the recordings, the memos. I don't have any. And then there's my library, and here's my WAV file that I loaded on there. So I can do the playback. And again, this is your volume, so max volume. And I'll do a speaker comparison here in a second, but this is maximum volume. And obviously it goes very quiet. But once it's playing, I did notice that you can, of course, you can stop the wheel and it will stop the recording, or sorry, stop the playback. The scratch thing. I was a little bit surprised that when you hold onto the wheel, it's not just like feather light touch. It's not just like I put my thumb down and it just stops. It's like it wants to keep going. The motor is a little bit stronger than I thought. It's not like crazy strong, but I was a little bit surprised. I thought it was, kind of funny from the TE launch of the product where they're like, you're in an interview and then you're gonna like off the record and you're just gonna put your finger on it to stop. You gotta be assertive putting your finger on there, or it's, it can slip around. And as I was kind of playing around with the strength of the motor, I noticed a fun thing on this unit. My thumb, you see, went to the middle of the disc there, and you'll notice that the middle's not spinning. And then there we go. We got the little metal disc coming out, which I'd read on the internet this was happening to a lot of people. You know, they get their units and it arrives, and then the middle falls out. And I think even without my thumb on there, this would have fallen out. It was just loose, like it wasn't screwed in tight. So I don't know, what are we gonna do? We're gonna keep it? Are we keeping this unit? Are we sending it back? Honestly, that's why I got two. I ordered two on launch. I was really hoping that one of them would be good. So far, this one, I don't know. Now this thing came out, like, it's $1,500. I guess I can screw it back in myself. For $1,500, it'd be nice if like somebody from TE, maybe Jesper, came and screwed it back in personally. I don't know. Anyway, and then this is glitching out. I'll do the factory reset here in a second. But for playback, you have, if you press play, it'll play forward. If you press play again, it'll go backwards. And to go forward again, you press play again. So you got that, okay? And when it's playing, then you can press the mode button, and then it will come up with this menu here, and you can slow down the playback to minus 50%. Or speed it up to as much as 200%. And like other people have mentioned, there are haptics on the wheel. So the only haptic feedback you get is when you cross 0. There it kind of snaps into 0 when you're scrolling, so you don't miss it if you want to hit 0. Other than that, I mean, to try to hit, like, let's say I want to hit like 39 right now. Yeah, you can do it. It's not crazy hard, but it's definitely not snapping to those numbers. But so snapping to 0 is kind of nice. And the other thing is, so if you're in that menu, you can press the mode button again and go back to your file name and your time. And also, I was curious to see, and you can do that in reverse as well. So here, playback's going forward. You can play backwards, and again, press the mode button. Come here, slow down the playback speed to 50, so 50% backwards. And then speed it up, so up to 200% backwards. I guess this makes sense. Like, let's go back to normal speed for fun. I was gonna say, it's kind of a handy feature. Now maybe I understand. So get out of that menu, and you got the wheel turning. So if you're playing it forward and you want to unscrew, again, you can see that middle's not turning. You're like, man, the middle dot's gonna fall out again. Oh, I get it. That's why I'm gonna play backwards, and then you can just hold it there, and it'll screw itself back in. So that's kind of clever or something. I don't know. Anyway, it's cool. I did notice another thing. You know, just shaking it. I'm not touching that wheel or the rocker. Just shaking it around will warble. Will affect the wheel turning, I guess. So kind of cool. I like that. I don't hate that. That's $1,500 of fun. I'm into it. These are the kind of hot takes you've come to expect from this channel. Actually, you're going to notice that as the review goes on, I'm going to have to throw in some content that my regular subscribers are used to seeing. So you have to forgive that. If you see something coming up on the screen that's not TP-7, just don't freak out. It'll be gone soon. But yeah, I love it. I mean, I love objects, obviously, and like handling them and moving them in real time and space, and yeah, it's pretty fun. But that's your basic playback functionality of the files from your library. We'll get more into that later, the file types and different sorts of things like that. But I think it's time to do a factory reset. I'll see you soon. Okay, just a quick update. I did the factory reset, and I have to say the first, I don't know, 2 or 3 times I turned it on after the reset, it worked perfectly. And I was like, oh, that was it. I just had to do a factory reset. But now it's still just being random, like there. I turned the volume all the way up, and like, I don't know what's happening. On my other unit, I can say that the power button feels significantly different. Like I feel a different resistance when I'm turning it. It works as expected. I guess this is the unit I'm keeping. Also, my center disc on this is not loose at all. I checked it out when I was updating the firmware and factory resetting the other one. So it looks like this is the keeper so far. Haven't found anything else wrong with this one. Haven't really tried the rocker on this one yet. But this one, I mean, again, it's all the way turned on, and like, I don't know what, like, I can't play or what's happening. Oh, are we back? I guess, and then I can turn the volume. No, I guess if I turn, so that's fun. Okay, so here it is. Play, turn the volume all the way up, and then it dies. Do I really have to like? I can't even use this for the review here. What's going on? Must be a glitch in the switch or something. Like, it definitely feels like looser when I turn it, like less resistance or something. Yeah, anyway, okay, this will be, gonna have to send this one back. One thing I noticed that is when you're, you can just read the manual and get all this too, but let's say you're in library mode, you're playing back a file. If you hold the button down here, you can scroll the name of the file. That's really nice. And I guess you can do that for all the other ones. I'll check that out later and show that to you when I load more files on here. Yeah, okay, cool. Let's see if I can, yeah, just gonna turn it off by turning it that way instead of the other way. All right, well, let me load up the other one and see if we can compare the speaker volume with a few other things from TE. All right, so here we got the stem player. It's really loud, actually. Got the speaker there. So that's pretty loud. I mean, OP1 feels pretty loud. I guess, I mean, it's hard to tell right on this video. You can't tell, but yeah, OP1 feels louder than the stem player, but not much. And then let's see, here's OPZ playing, and obviously the field's much louder than the Z. I mean, the stem player is louder than the Z, but it's all right. And then, yeah, TP-7's been playing this whole time. Definitely the quietest out of all of them. But it's not bad. Like, it's okay. So, it could be louder. Like, I wouldn't be upset if it was louder, but it's fine. Like, I'd say it's fine for like, hey, I recorded something, let me just check it out, make sure it recorded, or, you know, in the moment, just like hear something back if you do like a voice memo. That's all right. I like it has a little built-in speaker. I love things with little built-in speakers, so that's cool. But yeah, definitely out of these 4 devices, it's the quietest. And, you know, admittedly, you know, the track I have here on the TP-7, it's a quiet track. And, you know, the track I have here on the OPZ, it's also, you know, not the loudest. This is ambient, wash stuff, whatever. And the Z doesn't sound too bad here in this room. And then, man, compared to all these things, the field, it sounds really loud now compared to these other ones. yeah, obviously there's no way to really show you how loud the TP-7 is here on a video. But yeah, I'd say it's okay. And I know that at Super Booth they were saying, you know, that maybe the volume on this was, I guess, in one way quieter at Super Booth. I'm not sure. I know definitely at one point, and you know, a couple of the videos, maybe Tobias again was saying that like, oh, the playback volume's not very loud, and we're gonna try to boost that up before the release. So I don't know if that's, I guess that's just like a firmware thing. I have no idea if they boosted it or not. How cool would that be if this is just like, you know, the initial firmware that just had the Super Booth. This is like the Super Booth firmware volume level, and they can really boost it up on the next firmware update. And speaking of firmware updates, the other thing, I was reading the forums, and in terms of setting the date on the device, when it was July 31st and you recorded something on July 31st, it would only show the date as July 30th. And so it's confirmed by TE. Somebody wrote support, and they said that they would fix the July 31st bug. Was confirmed to be fixed in the next firmware. There was no release date on the next firmware, but at least that was going to be one bug that was going to be squashed out on the next update, which is pretty cool. And in terms of setting the date, of course, you can go into the menu, hold down that button there on the side, and then you can scroll through to your menus, and you can set your date and whatever. But the other thing that you can do is when you again have the device turned off and you connect it with the USB-C to your laptop, and you got this MTP client stuff going on, it will actually set the date for you, which is kind of cool. I saw that in the manual, and the first time I connected and unconnected with MTP loading a file on it, the date was the same. It's like the default date's like January 1st, 1980, but the second time I did it, it did set the correct date, which was very nice. Then I didn't have to menu dive and do that. So yeah, at least I don't know if this is the updated volume after Super Booth, if it was even more quiet during Super Booth. Would be super cool if there was a volume boost coming up in the next firmware when they fix the July 31st bug. But yeah, that's the speaker comparison here on the TP-7. Stay tuned. So I was checking out a couple of other things. I have this right now in the playback mode that's looping. There's 3 playback modes. The first is that when it's done playing a track, it'll just go on to the next track automatically. Then you can also have a playback mode where it'll play a track and then stop, and you have to either start that track again or go to the next one yourself. Or then there's a looping mode, and I wanted to see how well it loops, so I loaded on a couple of drum loops on here, or one melody loop and a drum loop, just to see how quickly it loops, if it can loop in time. I think it more or less can. Let's see here. If I go to library, and why is it, I guess there it's playing. So here's the drum loop. And maybe that is a little wonky anyway, I'm not sure. Let's see here. I think this loops pretty good in time. So yeah, it's possible, I think, to play back loops in time, more or less. I'll have to check that out, run that up against like a drum loop or something and see that it keeps in time, but it seemed pretty good. And the other thing is that I noticed that, let's say I'm going to just record, not using the memo button, but just go to the normal recording here. So I can arm a recording, and what you do is you press record, you get the light blinking, it's armed, and then in order to record, you're going to press play. But I haven't quite figured it out yet, because it seems that when I did press, like I press in the play button, it makes a noise, and when I release it, it makes a noise. Well, when I press it in, that noise it doesn't do anything because this isn't recording yet. But when I release it, I think it gets on the recording. Let's see if we can hear it. So did it make a click now? Let's see. So did it make a click now? Let's see. So did it make a click now? Let's see. So did it make a click now? Let's see. So I don't know if you can hear that artifact, right? You hear it, right? Like if you loop it. Here, listen. So did it make a click now? Let's see. So did it make a click now? Let's see. So did it make a click now? Let's see. So did it... Yeah, and I haven't really figured out a way yet. I mean, maybe I just get better at pressing the button. I mean, just in general, you can hear, right? The buttons make noise. I mean, they feel good. They're nice buttons. I dig it. But I just can't figure out this whole thing of like, arm the recording. And even that, like here, I'll do it when I'm not talking. Look, arm the recording. It's going to make noise. Listen. Right? You heard that. And now I'm going to press this. The next button is going to make the same sound. So like when you do the release, it's also going to be recorded into the device. I think that was a click again. I think that was a click again. I think that was a click again. Not as bad that time, right? So there's something about it. Maybe the technique I gotta work on. I did notice that when you use the memo button to make a recording, no clicks at all using the memo button. No clicks at all using the memo button. No clicks at all using the memo button. No clicks. There, I think that's just because I cut it off. It sounded a little bit like a click, but it definitely wasn't. I tested that a few times. One thing I'll say about the memo button, it feels pretty squishy. There's a lot of like play. You can see right there on the video, there's a lot of movement vertically on that button, right? This memo button is squishy. And the mode button, it's really solid. It feels really good. These buttons here feel really solid and good. These feel really solid and good. And this one's pretty squishy. Like it doesn't take a lot to press that in. I mean, look at the travel on that button. You can really move it around up and down. And it's super easy to press. And you can hear there's just no click of any time, of any kind, you know, on the loop there. Super easy to press. Really, really clean. Whereas here, that memo button's really squishy. And then of course we got the we got the click because I forgot to turn off recording and I pressed the play button. But I just have to say, of course, on the other unit I got, the memo button's also equally squishy. You can see there again a lot of travel, vertical travel on that button, and kind of rock back and forth. Super easy to press in. I guess that's the point. I don't know. It feels very different than the other buttons on the device. I wonder if everybody else's memo buttons are squishy. I guess since I have two units here and they're both kind of the same, then I guess that's how the memo button is. But yeah, it was way easier to press in than I thought it would be. The other thing to notice is that when you arm a recording, there's no input threshold to start recording, right? So like maybe on the OP1 field or whatever, you can set your input gain so that once the input volume goes past a certain level, it will just automatically start recording. There's nothing like that on this yet. You have to physically press the button. I can't talk to a certain, you know, level and have that level set here where, you know, once the level goes above my finger, then it would just start recording. That doesn't work. I have to physically press the button to have it record. Let's see if it clicked. To have it record. Yeah, there's a little click there, right? To have it record. Yeah, I don't know. So I got to work on my technique of pressing buttons more quietly on this device or timing it out somehow. I don't know. But all right, on to the next one. All right, so here the analog jacks at the top of the TP-7, they can be configured as either 3 inputs or 3 headset inputs, like a headset with a mic if you're going to do like recording 3 people talking with a headset with a mic on it, or then also 3 outputs. And I have to say that when I first heard about TP-7 and that the jacks on the top of the unit would be either input or output, I was kind of excited because I was like, oh, that's so weird. you know, I don't have any other equipment that you can change the jack from an input to an output exactly like that. But I was thinking they were going to be independently configurable, right? So you could have like 2 outs and 1 in, or whatever combination of out and in you wanted to have, that each jack would be separately controlled. And I was trying to think like, oh, that's kind of cool, because this is like a playback device, right? You could load audio files onto this, and then you could have, yeah, I don't know, like monitoring something coming in, recording something coming in, at the same time splitting that out to something else. I don't know, I was trying to wrap my head around it. I was like, that's kind of fun, that's kind of weird. But it looks like, no, it's either they're all 3 coming in, they're all 3 coming in with some sort of headset mic thing, or they're all just going out, which is kind of also funny too. I don't know what I'm going to use that for, but potentially, I don't know, for a show or something, if you got your files on here and you got 3 outs, that's super awesome in one way, because yeah, well, then whatever. It means you can have different combinations of gear, probably less gear. At the same time, when you have the input coming in, there's no like level per track setting on the TP-7, right? So if I'm going to record like the stem player, the Z, and the field here, I got to do like manually, like, you know, raise and lower the volume on each one of them. So you can't really mix, so to speak, in the TP-7 to like, you know, attenuate your signals there. It just, whatever comes in, comes in. And then when you hook it up to the TX6, I got TX6 on 12 in, 12 out mode here through USB. It's really straightforward, where, let's see here, blah, blah, blah. On the recording here on the TX6, it pops up the TP-7, select tracks. You got your mute buttons here on the tracks. You can select how many you're going to record. So for example, if I had the 6 inputs up here of the TX6, I could have these 3 devices here hooked up to TX6. You could go through the USB as well from the TX6. Then maybe I'd only want to have 3 inputs. I could just turn off those 3 tracks. And as you turn off as you mute the tracks on the TX6, on the TP-7, under the record, there's a little track counter. So this is now 3 tracks. I can do 4 tracks if I arm them, etc. The one thing to know is that when you go ahead and make your first recording on the TP-7, the number of tracks that you set is going to be the maximum number of tracks you can have. So I can't, for example, say that I'm just going to record these 3 devices here, and I say I'm going to have 3 tracks on the TP-7. I record those 3 tracks, and later on go, oh, I wish I had a 4th track. I'll add something else on top of that. That doesn't work. Apparently what you can do is, you know, for example, you could all the time just max out your tracks on every recording just to be safe. So I'm just going to do 6 tracks all the time. And apparently there is a way where you can reduce those tracks later on if you get that file somehow, that you can just, instead of always having like, you know, this is 6 stereo tracks, so that's 12 mono tracks. So for example, if you have your 6 stereo tracks and then you just want to, you end up recording one stereo channel or two mono channels, and you got 10 empty mono channels, and then that's kind of a pain. There is something you can do with that file somehow. I don't know. I was reading that today on Reddit. I'm not going to do it right now, but there is a way, potentially, if you max out your tracks just to be on the safe side, you can reduce them down later on to handle the files better. All right, so when TP-7 is hooked up to TX6 with the USB, you got the different modes here on TX6. So for example, you got 2-channel, and on the 2-channel, you get a stereo mix out with all of the effects and processing from the TX6 to the TP-7. So for example, now I got my OP1 field hooked up to the TX6. I can run it through here. I can do EQ, compression, whatever. I can add reverb effects, stutter, whatever, bit crush, and all that, all those effects and all the added processing is going to be recorded onto the TP-7. On the 12 in, the 12 out. So for example, here you just get the OP1 field with the processing. So like, again, EQ, compression, but you don't get the effects recorded on there. And on the 12 channel in and out, I think that's just the multi-track without any sort of processing or effects. But what you can do is you can play back a recording from the TP-7 at the same time recording from the TX6. For example, there's a couple of different ways to do edits on the TP-7 when you have a recording. You can either overdub, which is like, oh, well, whatever, you can see that in a couple different ways, but you can replace the audio on a track. So you can destroy whatever's on there and just record, instead of whatever's already there. Or you can layer on top of, so you keep the audio that's there and you just add more audio to it. So we can take a look at that. So for now, we'll just do a little a voice recording onto here, and then we can layer over top something on there through the TX6 just for fun with the USB. Of course, we could go straight in OP1 field through one of the inputs on top here, but let's look at it through the TX6 to see some of this 12 channel, 2 channel in out stuff like that. So here we go. Okay, so here's a recording that we're gonna layer over top of in edit mode. Okay, so here's a recording that we're gonna layer over top of in edit mode. Right, so to get into edit mode, it's record and stop. You got your edit mode there. And from there, I'm gonna hook it up to the USB. And you can see here it's in edit mode. So go back to the beginning of the recording, arm the recording. I got OP1F here, channel 1, TX6, it's armed, so I can record. Okay, so here's a recording that we're gonna layer over top of. And now we have that. Okay, so here's a recording that we're gonna layer over top of in edit mode. And one thing I noticed is that when using TP-7 and TX6 side by side, the screen, the brightness of the TP-7 is much brighter than the brightest level of the TX6. And of course I have TX6 in dark mode, but I do have the screen brightness all the way up on the TX6, and it's definitely significantly brighter on the TP-7, which it looks really nice, I have to say, on TP-7. In fact, I thought TX6 looked awesome as it was until you put it side by side with the TP-7, and then it looks a little bit dim. I mean, both screens look good, but yeah, the TP-7 screen looks really awesome. So I looked around on the internet today. I read all the forums. I went to Electronauts and Lines and OP forum, and I looked at all the TP-7 threads and collected a lot of comments that people were talking about, questions they had about TP-7, and also went on the YouTube videos that are already out there and read all the comments. Somebody was asking if you could overdub using the internal microphone. Yeah, it's super easy. So we can just make a new recording here. So this is going to be a recording where we overdub using the internal microphone. So this is going to be a recording where we overdub. Yeah, so edit mode, and edit mode is just in overdub or whatever you want to call it. I've heard people, using the word overdub in different ways. I'm going to say mixing. So mixing on top of what we just recorded. So and yeah, it's just the internal mic. It's super easy, no problem. So this is a recording internal mic. Overdub using the internal microphone. Right, not an issue at all. And it's kind of fun. I was playing around with layering using the internal microphone, and because I'm using the internal speaker as well, you can really degrade the original file. I mean, you get this echo effect, not really a true echo, but it just gets more and more, distorted the more times you kind of just re-record the same track through the internal microphone using the internal speaker. It's kind of nice if you get a bunch of generations of that, kind of a fun little vocal effect going on with that. All right, so here we have the setup I'm most excited about with TP-7 going into TX6. And that is, of course, TP-7 can play back multi-track wave recordings, and then you can run that in the TX6, and then the faders here can change the levels on those tracks. You can do all the effects, yeah, all the different processing on there. Right now I'm just using the OP1 field as a little speaker. I don't have anything else with me right now. And so I'm eventually just going to take my entire live music set and I'm going to throw everything on multi-track wave files on TP-7. And then I can just do all the mixing here on TX6 with all the processing and effects. But at the same time, I also wanted to add a few extra things live over, layer over top. So I can have the entire setup like this. Essentially, this is just turning, TX6 into a stem player, right? I mean, here you have a 4-track stem player with effects, built-in speaker, and of course, Bluetooth out, which is also super cool, line out and whatnot. But here you're going to have 6 stereo track or 12 mono track stem player. I mean, essentially you got your 6 faders. Anyway, you're going to be, controlling the volumes of multiple stems in that way. In that case, either a left and right channel, or in this case, I have the OPZ, just some sounds there, going into channel 1. But of course, this fader is going to control not just the OPZ's level, but then track 1 of the multi-track wave file from TP-7. But still, what a super fun setup for like a live gig. It literally fits in your pocket. Like, it could not be more fun, I think. In the end, I mean, my live set right now is just taking samples and loops and basically mixing the levels up and down, adding some effects, maybe layering over some live stuff with the Z or the OP1, whatever. So here we're gonna do playback. I'll turn this down. So right now TP-7 is playing back. We got right now 3 stereo channels, well, 6 channels of audio here. This is the one that the Z's on. Next one, 3rd one, all of them, right? You can add the effects. Well, this is proof of concept. This is what I'm most excited about for TP-7, really. And of course, you still got your scratch, your wheel here. Yeah, that's fun. So I think that's going to be my biggest use case for this setup, is just to have, my whole live set multi-tracked on TP-7, different wave files, and then can just mix with TX6, layer over top with this, play around with the speed, with the wheel, can do the playback, different speeds like we looked at before, right? That's gonna be super fun for like a live set. Good times. Love the TP-7, it's great. So another thing I really wanted to do, just to see if it worked, just for different possibilities potentially for like a live setup, is to do multi-track playback on TP-7, into TX6 with USB. But at the same time, there's, you know, these 3 jacks, analog jacks on the top of the unit that you could put whatever, you know, the Z or the field into here. And then it's got the headphone out. And so I connected up the headphone out, and the track 6 over here on TX6, put the Z into the number 1 jack over here on TP-7. But in order to monitor the, you know, the inputs, you got to be recording. But that's cool, right? Because like we can play back here and record, so that's no problem. I mean, it's a little bit random, like if you're going to go do a gig, every time you want to do that configuration for whatever reason, you got to be recording here all the time. But that should be fine, right? Because then you could have, like, you know, in one way you could have your 6 inputs here and you got 3 more here. I don't know why, for what. I'm just thinking like what could be possible, right? But it turns out that when you actually go, so now I put my multitrack wave file into the like the recording, the recordings. I mean, you got your 3 folders on here, the file structure. You got the memos, you got your library, which is like your audio tracks, like, you know, like a Walkman or an iPod or something. Then you have the recordings. And so you can put wave files in the same wave file in any of those folders. It's no problem at all. And it'll play back in any of those 3. You know, you pick your play mode here with your mode button, right? So there's your recordings, memos, and your library. So I put the same multi-track wave file there into the recordings. It'll play it back. But when I go to change the record mode to edit, so I can mix the recording over top, it just comes up with no edit. And so for the moment, it doesn't seem like this scenario works. Playing back multi-track wave files from TP-7 and the TX6 with USB, while at the same time, you know, summing somehow the analog inputs either through the headphone out or through the USB or whatever. I don't know. Look, this is above my pay grade. I have no idea. This is something for, you know, Cuckoo or whatever. You know, if he would ever do, I don't know why nobody's done really a video yet with TP-7 diving into any of this stuff yet, including TE. But I mean, I guess there's people like us, like me, to do this for TE, so they don't have to do it. And like Cuckoo's review of the TX6 was cool. I was a little sad he didn't get into the synth functionality. Like, it was an hour-long video, super fun to watch, but like missing a few details. So maybe this is like a detail if Cuckoo would ever do like a TP-7 video. I also want to shout out to Sunwoo. Sunwoo's awesome. If you have a chance to take some tutorials from Sunwoo, you should totally do that. I did it. I'm super happy. I want to do it again. I really want to work with Sunwoo in the future. And like his TP-7 video, you know, it's blowing up, right? Like just from Super Booth, and yeah, Sunwoo's the best. So maybe Sunwoo knows something about this like multi-track playback. I mean, because, you know, potentially you got 3 more channels here, kind of somehow to do something with that. That'd be great. I'd love to see something like that in the future, if you could use that. And then, you know, once you kind of figure out all your options, then you could start to see like what would you actually use it for. So right now I'm just trying to figure out like what is possible with this system, like what's been enabled, or like what's, you know, what's functional at the moment. So all right, let's keep moving. I want to say one thing here, like, so I've been obviously like plugging cables in and out of this and picking it up, and, you know, USB in and out and audio cables in and out. It is hard to not press a button. On TX6, it's like no problem at all. Like I can pick it up. I mean, obviously there's no buttons here, no buttons here. I just hold it and I plug stuff in and out, bottom, top. It's all good. TX6, no problem. This thing, I'm like hitting a button like all the time, like this memo thing. And especially like I don't know. It's like on my iPhone, like, you know, like the iPhone has like the power button opposite the volume buttons. And it's just like half the time when I go to like turn up my volume, because like obviously like you're pressing opposite on the device, I like turn my phone off when I want to like raise the volume. It's the same thing here. It's like I got the memo button, I want to press it, but then the rocker's in the way. So you have to like press opposite, like just above the point, like, you know what I'm saying? Not directly across the unit. Like you're not squeezing directly. It's like a diagonal squeeze, or I don't know. It's weird. I have really big hands, but man, I'm either hitting the mode button or the rocker. there's just buttons everywhere on this thing. Like even on the bottom, like you can just depress these keys. I don't know. I've been hitting these things too, plugging stuff in and out. Like half the time I go to like plug a cable in and out, like I hit I arm the recording. I just got to get used to it, but kind of funny that like TX6 is just like no problem. And this thing, there's just like buttons galore, things to press. The other thing I noticed is just like handling it. Probably not going to hear it now. Yeah, a little bit. Maybe you heard it a little bit. Yeah, this squishy memo button, it's just rattling. So I don't know. Am I going to keep, like, is mine, like, let me know. Like, is your memo button rattly? I don't know. Half the time I hear it, half the time I don't. But like manipulating just like, you know, the logistics of handling it, of like plugging and unplugging. I hear something rattling. I'm pretty sure it's the memo button because it's so squishy. But yeah, it's kind of fun. I mean, again, you just got these buttons opposite each other. The rocker is opposite the memo button, and then these here again, it's opposite the rocker, and yeah, and this thing is. Yeah, that one's okay to I don't know. It's a little bit weird, a little bit more cumbersome than the TX6 to manipulate when you're doing these cables in and out. So one thing I wanted to do was to take my multitrack wave file and, you know, let's say play back tracks 1 and 2 and then edit track number 3 at the same time live, right? Like either erase it and record something new at the same time or just mix something over top of it. So when I go into my my multitrack here on the recordings, playback's cool. I'm gonna go to my edit mode, so record and stop. There's no edit, right? So if I go and make a new recording, multitracked up to TX6, here, choose tracks, you know, select tracks for TX6. Let's just take all 6, whatever. I'm just gonna do a recording of nothing for a second, because after I'm done with the recording, I can go into edit mode and then again select my tracks, plus or minus, you know, I can go to track 4 or whatever, and then I can do the I can do the process of this edit mode. But it doesn't seem like I can do it with a pre-existing multi-track wave file. So again, if somebody knows if there's a way that you can take that multitrack wave file that already exists that I imported from my library and then go ahead and erase or dub over one of those tracks somehow, that'd be great. Drop it in the comments. Let me know in the comments what you're thinking. I'd love to check that out. Thanks for any help. So just to be clear, this is a question everybody's asking on all the forums, all over YouTube, everywhere. No, there's no extra functionality right now when you hook up the TP-7 to the OP1 field by USB. So you can't just take your tracks, your 4 tracks here, and stream the 4 tracks to a multi-track wave file recording on TP-7. And the other way around doesn't work either. You can't play back, for example, a 4-track or 4 stereo track, 8 mono track multi-wave file from TP-7 and stream it through USB and then capture it, multi-tracked on the OP1 field. So that functionality doesn't exist. That's what everybody wants to happen. Of course, alternatively, everybody wants to have the USB recording on TX6 also be multi-tracked, which, yeah, in one way make my life better. Of course, that I could just have a USB stick with the multi-track file instead of the TP-7, but then you don't get the fun wheel, and this looks cooler than a USB stick. So yeah, I don't have an orange USB stick anyway. Like, who has that? But anyway, unfortunately, there's no special functionality between TP-7 and OP1 field right now, and that's what everybody wants. Just to confirm, nothing that I found yet. So sorry about that. One thing to notice is that when you have the 2 units hooked up to each other with USB, yeah, there's no way to power these except through battery. So if you're gonna do like a long session and you're low on battery, I don't know. I've read a bunch of different things online. Like, some people have had some luck with a USB splitter to power. It's just been a bunch of different reports. I don't know. Some people say one USB splitter has been enough to power both. Somebody else says you need a USB splitter for each of them. Other people have had some luck with USB hubs. Some other people didn't have any luck with USB hubs. I think it's all over the place. Like usual, I don't think there's any sort of standard USB hub or officially recommended, I don't know, accessory that's going to work, all the time. I run into the same problem. It's like I use right now the TX6 in my live set all the time. Just fill up the inputs, and I'm using this as the main output. And I'll put the USB stick up here just to record the set. And I love that. It's so easy and so fun, and it's good that you have that recording of your live set. But then of course you can't power TX6. Again, some people have had luck with USB hubs. I haven't had a lot of good luck with that, with consistently recording. You need whatever. It's all over the map, right? Like it comes down to the brand of your USB stick, the brand of your hub, the brand of in the combination of those things. And I just haven't had the time or patience or money or whatever to go through that process and troubleshoot it all down. I did finally find a USB stick that works with TX6 to record consistently. But yeah, it's definitely something to think about, because this is something I really want to use for my live sets. And it is sometimes an issue, like I said already, with the TX6 with the USB recording. So again, if you're going to play like an hour set or whatever, it should be fine. But it makes me a little bit nervous to have live sets that are only battery powered. It's always nice to have it plugged in for extra safety. And I've been really impressed with like OP1 Field and OPZ and TX6 and everything. I haven't had any ground loop issues at all. I can even leave charging on. I haven't had any noise through any of those things. My recent live sets, it's been really cool. I guess it's a fire. I don't know. What's going on? Okay, so I'm here on tour. I'm recording this in a hotel room on tour, and yeah, the fire alarm went off, and we all had to leave the building, and 3 fire trucks came, all the police came. I guess it was a false alarm. I don't know. The alarms finally went off after about 45 minutes and let us back in the building. So now I'm back. I mean, it's kind of worth mentioning this fire thing, because just to say, I'm recording a TP-7 review, and when the fire alarm went off, I have to admit to you, I thought about it for a second, like, oh, maybe I should grab the TP-7 and take it with me, but I didn't. So I don't know if that says anything. I mean, I think I really like the TP-7, but apparently, under pressure, when it comes down to it, when there's a fire alarm, I didn't pocket it. It's even small enough I could have just thrown it in my back pocket, but I didn't. So anyway, I don't know what that means, but here we are, we're back. I just tried to get beat sync, beat match on the TX6 with the TP-7 through USB, and then that doesn't work. I'm sure it's the same as everything else with TX6 with USB and the beat sync built-in stuff. Of course, you can beat sync with the analog out. So now I'm just running TP-7 into TX6, but it's like any other sound source, right? Like for this beat match stuff. So now we can see the tempo here that it's trying to figure out from the TP-7. But yeah, that was another question I saw online. Somebody asking, can you sync the beat match on the TX6 through USB? TP-7, I guess not right now, or if ever, I don't know. I'm sure it's the same thing with anything else over USB. If you're using USB clock here, it doesn't do the beat sync on the TX6. So moving on to the next question. Okay, another little mini review inside this TP-7 review. I just got the new fabric cables from TE, and I have to say, in general, I love TE cables. I've used them for all my gigs for the past, well, however many years they've ever been making cables. I don't know. I mean, the USB cables, of course, with the first OP1, and then when they started making audio cables, I got them immediately. I've never had a single one break. I can always just trust them when I'm at a gig. Yeah, they're amazing. But I do have to say that this is the first time I've been using these fabric ones. And, I had the other field slimline cables when the TX6 came out. I love those to death. I think they're perfect. I have to say, it's been pretty weird today, like using these, for some reason, plugging these into especially the TP-7. It's like super hard. I don't know. they feel like bigger or something, but also into the TX6, like they feel different than the whatever rubber coated, you know, cables or whatever they have. I don't know. These are cool. Like these are fine cables. I think I like the other ones a lot better in the end instead of this fabric stuff, but I don't know. It's like Derek Delgadio in and of itself, right? It's like, you know, which grip are you going to learn? Like the dealer's grip or the mechanic's grip? So I just learned them all. I just bought all the cables, whatever. I love these cables. TE cables are great, but I think I'm definitely going to stick with the rubber coated ones instead of these fabric ones for now. They seem to plug much easier. I don't know what it is into both, well, into kind of everything so far that I've tried them with. So anyway, back to the TP-7. So right now, this is another question I saw online. I got it hooked up USB to the TX6 multi-track recording. And so right now, I'm running the OP1 field into track 1 over here. So I'm gonna go ahead and record just a little sequence. I'm gonna do a 6-track recording. I'm gonna record into track 1. So here we go. And now we can go into edit mode and we can select which of those tracks we want to change or overdub or whatever you want to do. So we can go to track, let's say track 2, right? Because now we're recording on track 1. Now I can add on track 2. And the question is, can I leave my input plugged into track 1 on TX6 and somehow internally route it to track number 2? And you actually can't. So you have to do it the old school way. You unplug it and just plug it into the second input. And then, yeah, then you can of course record. But yeah, there's no way to internally route audio to pick which input here is going to go to which, you know, output or into what track on the TP-7. So for now, it's all plug and play. All right, now we've come to a really popular question, and it's another one of those questions that doesn't really work on video, so you're gonna have to take my word for it. I'm gonna test out the microphones. I checked out the microphone on TP-7 versus the microphone on the OP1 field versus the microphone on my iPhone. And I have to say that out of all three, at least for me here in this room right now, TP-7 wins hands down, way better than the other two. Like, it's not even close. It's not like, oh, I don't know, maybe this one's better than that one. It's just like, obviously TP-7 is just better than the other two. It's gonna be impossible to show you the mic on my iPhone right now because I'm using it to record this video. You have to trust me on that. I was super surprised. I thought iPhone was gonna beat both of them, to be honest. I use the voice app on iPhone all the time. I think it works great. I've even just recorded straight into the iPhone app, voice app, and just went straight to podcast. Like I've taken that recording and put it on a podcast. Nobody could tell the difference. I've even had compliments, people being like, wow, it sounds really good. Like, what mic were you using? It's like, no, I just have my iPhone laying on a table, you know? I mean, the whole second season of Object Episodes that I recorded with Eric Oberry, like it's just recorded on my iPhone laying on a table between the two of us when we were on tour in Denmark. So I always thought the mic on the iPhone was great. I can show you some recording here. And of course, like, I know this is not obviously scientific. Maybe different distances between the two mics, and like there's the gain staging and blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's one thing to say, is that the gain on the TP-7 mic, it's gain stage. So you don't have complete control. There's like 3 levels, I think, of gain that you can choose from. I just have it on the most sensitive setting, whatever, the loudest setting. And here on OP1 field, I just got everything cranked all the way up. And then again, like how are we testing the playback? I used headphones here when I wasn't shooting right now, just to check it out. Obviously here, I don't have headphones for you. I'm just gonna crank up the volume on both of them. I don't know if you're gonna be able to tell anything from this little demonstration on camera, but I'm gonna try. So here's gonna be the OP1 field. So does this sound better than the TP-7? Let's find out. So does this sound better than the TP-7? Let's find out. So does this sound better than the TP-7? Let's find out. And then we'll just do a little memo on this one. So now we're using the memo on TP-7. Does that sound better than the OP1 field? So now we're using the memo on TP-7. Does that sound better than the OP1 field? So now we're using the memo on TP-7. Does that sound better than the OP1 field? So does this sound better than the TP-7? Let's find out. So does this sound... Yeah, again, I'm sure you can't tell anything out there in YouTube land, but here live in the room, TP-7 sounds the clearest. Again, for sure, right now it's really hard to understand. You know, we're using internal speaker of TP-7 versus also internal speaker of OP1 field versus internal speaker, you know, at one point of the iPhone mic, the voice app capturing. But again, I tested on headphones previous to recording this. Right now, I think TP-7 still sounded the clearest, actually. It sounded really clear, really like close, like personal, like but in a good way, not like overly, I don't know, it's hard to describe, right? Like it's sound, so it doesn't really lend itself well to words. But yeah, I don't know, for my taste, TP-7 mic seems better than OP1 field. I know, again, you can find different opinions elsewhere on different forums. People saying, you know, OP1 field could be a little bit better. Some people say they have the same mic inside. Maybe they do. I don't know. Everything I've tested so far right now, I think TP-7 sounds the best. In any case, you know, I can at least say that I'm really liking the microphone on the TP-7. So that's for sure. I think it's, even though it's not that high quality and even though it's like mono, people are complaining about that. And, you know, we're all waiting for CM15. I don't know, I'm pretty impressed, at least, again, I've heard this before. I was gonna say I'm pretty impressed, at least for speaking, that the mic on TP-7 is really nice. I've heard that from other people too, that like for speaking, it's super good. Maybe for recording other sorts of sounds or some other sorts of, you know, maybe even trying to record instruments or something through the internal mic, maybe not the best option you got. But hey, for the speaking test, I think it wins hands down. One thing I was curious about was the memo process with TP-7. I think it's going to be one of my main use cases. And I'm really interested in the transcription, actually. I've been working with different sort of transcription programs the past couple of years in my workflow, my process for creating performances. And so we're going to check out how that works. But the first thing is that this memo button, you can have the option that when the unit's turned off, right? And this was also in the launch from TE themselves, so they're like, oh, it takes too much time to get your phone out and turn on the phone app. So here we're just going to have this dedicated memo button. The unit's turned off, you can just hit the button and do the recording. And so when you do that, you'll see when I press the button, there'll be just the slightest of little, there's a line that fills up as it goes across the screen before it starts recording. And I'm sure that's for, you know, to prevent accidental, you know, presses on the buttons. That's just going to record all the time if it's in your pocket or something. I don't know. But check it out. So now it's recording. You can see that little scroll bar just going super fast. And now we're into the recording the memo. And when I let go, then the unit turns off again. I was really curious about that. If like, once you press the memo button, it records it, and then can I just press play straight away? But you can't, like the unit's turned off again. But what's kind of cool is when you turn the unit on, and you press play. So now it's recording. You can see that little scroll bar just going super fast. And when you turn it back on, it goes straight to that recording you just made. So I think that was a really nice little feature. And I was really curious how that worked, right? How that whole workflow worked. I didn't see that documented anywhere at Superbooth. So now we know. And now next thing I'd like to do is test out the transcription service. All right, this is all kinds of crazy. And I've never seen this workflow documented yet with the TP-7 with the transcription. So I got the app here on the iPhone, and let's record something on here. Let's record something to transcribe. I'm going to do it from the memo. So I'm turning off TP-7. I'm going to use the voice memo function. All right, so now we're recording. We're going to do the transcription service with the app. That's the Whisper AI on the iOS device. We're going to see the whole workflow here. Cool. So TP-7's off. I turn it on. I'm going to go into the menu. I'm going to go to Bluetooth. And for the moment it's off. I'm going to go to my iOS app, get the TP-7 app going. And here at the bottom, it's gonna connect. So it says looking for TP-7, and then I'm gonna go on the TP-7 and I'm gonna turn Bluetooth on accept, and it just says immediately like connect. And so now here on the app, when it's connected, yeah, it looks like this. Here we are. And then here's the wild thing. If you press play, it's just gonna play that memo, right? All right, so now we're recording. We're gonna do the transcription service with the app. That's the Whisper AI. Right, so I play on the app. It's playing on the device. You go to transcribe. There, it's transcribing. It says transcribing track, and then there's your text right there. Let's see, did it come out good? So now we're... Yeah, why not? Looks all right. And then you can just go export. It comes up with your iOS menu to where you want to send that out. So, yeah. Pretty slick. Pretty cool. I hadn't seen that demonstrated yet. I was dying to know how that worked. Yeah, I dig it. So, here's the thing with the transcription. I love it. It's great. It's based on this Whisper AI thing. I mean, there's a ton of clients that like apps that you can find on your iOS device or whatever device you're using. That's like a front end that can access that AI. And a lot of those apps on the iPhone, it's like subscription based, right? So you're going to pay per week or per month or whatever it is. And it's not like insanely cheap. It's not like a couple bucks a month. It's a lot more than that. I think the AI works great. I love the transcription. I've been using a lot of different transcription services, like I said, the past couple of years in my workflow. And I have to say, when I first started using transcription services like 3 years ago or whatever, in 2020 is really when I started during the pandemic. And I didn't find like a ton of great options. And so when the whole Whisper thing came out recently, I checked it out and I was pretty impressed. I was like, oh, this is way better than like 3 years ago. And I was pretty much into it. But I don't know if I do enough. Yeah, I guess at some point, I was going to say I do enough transcribing to really justify, having a subscription. But I knew TP-7 was coming, and TP-7 had this, extra little feature, this app on the iPhone, where essentially you have access to Whisper without your subscription fee. I mean, it's or whatever, like, or you pay $1,500 subscription fee once, for a lifetime, conceivably like a lifetime subscription or something, but then you get this piece of hardware, blah, blah, blah. It's cool. But one thing I find a little bit weird that I'm a little bit conflicted about is, I don't know, I've had a lot of like toy MIDI controllers over the years, and like, you'll get like a MIDI controller. Like, let's say this is your iPhone, right? And this is like your MIDI controller here. And then on the iPhone itself, there's like a user interface that one-to-one maps the like buttons on the MIDI controller just over here on the touch screen. And then they link through like Bluetooth or whatever. And then what you're supposed to do is like, you can like load different sounds in the app, and then you press the button over here and the phone is making the sound over here. But literally, you could just be pressing the screen over here and make the exact same sound. I get it, that's how MIDI controllers work. I get it, it's a physical button versus a touch screen. It's still somehow, I don't know, I can't really wrap my head around it. It's like, I could be pressing the MIDI controller here, or I could just move my hand like 10 centimeters and like press the button over here on the phone, and I could just get rid of the MIDI controller. I mean, hey, come on, I get it. I could also just get rid of this and just keep my phone. I could get rid of this and have like a laptop with a DAW. Look, you don't need to tell me. I mean, people who know me, right? Like I love physical things. So you don't need to like, like I get it. Like I love having dedicated devices. I love having the physical object, the, user experience. I love all that. It's a little bit weird where I'm recording into here, especially like the voice memo function. Like I record into here, and then I gotta send it, then I gotta Bluetooth it to the phone and then send it to the phone. and then I access the AI. I don't know, like I could just, yeah, I don't know. I guess it's like a bonus feature, right? Like it's definitely not like a exclusive, reason to buy this or whatever. I'm super happy it exists, right? Because again, like it saves me on a subscription to Whisper AI. But at the same time, I'm just like, I don't know, like that workflow, like for sure, it's going to be cool to have this out and about dedicated like voice memo thing. At the same time, I really do want it transcribed. That's kind of the whole point. Then I got to anyway Bluetooth it up to my phone and send those files over, transcribe them. I might as well just have the phone and just do the subscription to Whisper AI, just record them natively into that app, right? And like it saves me the whole extra device that I'm carrying around to do the transcription with, and it saves the whole like transfer. I don't know. And it kind of feels like the whole MIDI thing where you're just pushing a button here and then you could just move your hand over here and push it here. And yeah, you miss the feel of the button, and yeah, you miss having this cool, inspiring object to look at as you're walking around talking into it, feeling like a secret agent or something. I guess, it's much cooler to talk into this than to talk into my iPhone. But like at the end of the day, it seems like to be like just a couple steps of friction removed from the actual transcription, itself. And then I'm like, well, I could just record onto the device itself that's going to do the transcribing. So yeah, I don't know what to think about that. When you hook this up to the computer, you got the MTP, and then it gets you access to the folders, right? There's three folders, these three modes: your library, your recordings, and your memos. And then within those folders, you can create subfolders, and you can see folders displayed on here when you create different folders. So you can organize pretty well. The one thing you can't do is rename files on the device, which I was really interested in. You have to obviously, rename them on the computer, put them back here, or change the name on here on the computer. And so that's a little bit too bad. You can change the name of your TP-7 in the menu. I guess when you have your, because you're gonna have the two, like you have both of them, right? So you want to have them each have a different name, so you know what's what, so that you can change the name of TP-7. But yeah, you can't rename files on the device. The files on the device, they're shown by the date and the time. And so definitely you want to set the date when you get your TP-7 for sure. Oh yeah, one thing I wanted to say about the transcription service. Some guy had a really great idea on Reddit, I think. And it was something about now that you can do the voice memo into the app, you get the transcription, you get the words. I mean, the next step would be so great, would be to send that text to the TE choir, and then the choir could sing what you say. I think that would be a great little Easter egg if they could ever hook that up. I'd be a big fan of that. Let's see. See if I forgot anything else about. Oh yeah, this is a thing. I just tried this. This is hilarious. So I saw this announced at Super Booth. I saw it like in the manual, like before this shipped. They published the guide online, and it said you could use this like as external hard drive, or like external drive. It said, and I was like, oh yeah, because like on my old iPods, right? Like I got the iPods. I use those all the time when I would run out of space on like my external hard drive, or even on my internal hard drive on my laptop, right? You used to be able to just plug in the iPod to your computer and just use it as a drive. It would just show up as a drive, and you could drag and drop movies on there, files, documents, PDFs, whatever, and just use it as a mass storage device. You could take that iPod, some other computer, and like take those files off. So I was super excited when it was like, use this as an external drive. So yeah, I just hooked it up to my computer and tried to like drag a movie on here and a PDF and stuff, and it doesn't work. And then I go back and look at the manual again, and it's like there is that external drive use case at the end of the guide, and it's basically like it's an external drive for your music files. Like it's basically one component of using this as a music player is, you know, for sure. Like I could take the songs on my computer and throw them on here and then delete them on my computer and I still have them. Like it's an external drive. But yeah, not as exciting as like, oh man, I need to, you know, I only have this on me and like I'm at my friend's house and they need to give me like a PDF or something and I could just like plug this in and like throw it on here and take it home or something. I was pretty excited for that, but it doesn't seem like that's what they meant. It's only just the music files. Too bad. All right, I'm gonna try to tie up a bunch of loose ends here and then we're gonna get to the grand finale, which of course is gonna be the DJ mode, right? So first of all, just to note, a lot of people have been asking, does this have, you know, phantom power for mics? No, it doesn't have phantom power. It doesn't even have plug-in power. So there's no plug-in power and there's no phantom power. Of course, the CM15 coming out, it's battery operated, so don't need phantom or plug-in power, but yeah, there's no plug-in power for mics to plug in here or anywhere. So you don't have that. Also, it's 96 kilohertz and 24-bit or something. I don't know what either of those things means. I don't really use that in my life, so sorry, but whatever, that's what it is. I guess TX6 is different than that. You know, I don't know. It's not 32-bit, which people are sad about, so I guess I'm also sad if I knew what that meant. The other thing to check out is a lot of people, besides like, you know, the metal dot in the middle like falling out and whatever, like sometimes the motor's broken when they arrive or the rocker doesn't work. Another thing I've read about from a few different people, actually like 3 people, their 1/4-inch adapter is just broken. Like it just like corrupted audio. So if you get your TP-7, one thing to check out, if the audio doesn't sound good for whatever reason, you could also troubleshoot and just think that it might just be this adapter. It might not be the unit itself, because I've read 3 separate accounts of just like the unit itself is basically fine. They just got a bad adapter, which is weird. I bought a ton of these when they went on sale on, you know, just on their own. I think they're great. I love these. Again, I love all the cables, all the accessories. And I've never had a problem with these. So that's, maybe there was a bad batch or something shipping with the new, you know, when the TP-7 came out. Let's see. Oh yeah, this is a super fun one. So somebody mentioned that like, hey, my TP-7's like broken. Like I lay it on the table and when I do playback, it's kind of warble. This is a really funny one. Somebody was saying online that their TP-7 was broken when they got it, because they would put it on a table and they'd press play, and every so often the disc would just kind of warble, you know, every few minutes, kind of unpredictably, and they're like, oh man, the motor's broken, it's not working good. And then finally someone found out that actually it's because they had the TP-7 laying next to their iPhone, and in the iPhone there's some various different sorts of magnets. So like I said before, on this plastic case, there's the magnet right here that keeps it shut. And you can see that when you put the TP-7 close to the magnet, different things happen because of the, I guess, the sensitivity of this rockers, and the wheels kind of connected with the magnets too. So check it out. So you have normal playback, and then so yeah, I mean, that could be pretty cool if you're at a gig and you could control that somehow with an extra magnet, right? And like you affect the playback in different ways. But yeah, apparently it's sensitive enough that if you have an iPhone next to it or some other sort of magnet, that it can affect it. Maybe not in such an extreme way as that. Obviously, I'm intentionally putting it really close to that magnet to mess with it. But just be aware of that in your environment. And then there was some reports later on that like, yeah, now I was, you know, they were conscious of like where it was sitting in relationship to magnets, and then it just worked fine. So that was kind of a fun thing. Oh yeah, another thing to touch upon is like, I've seen some people with the, you know, the teenage engineering, you know, the ecosystem, like the field, you got the OP1 field, and you got your TX6 and your OPZ and like whatever else, you know, your pocket operators and everything, right? All good. Love it. I'm a little bit lost as to like, if you have, you know, the OP1 field and you got your 4-track tape recorder on there and you can sample in the internal mic there. I don't know, like I've seen some people making some tracks on TP-7 itself with the, you know, layering tracks on here and as part of a workflow. I don't quite get that. Like I totally understand the idea of using it for a multi-track recorder with TX6 because that's like a functionality that OP1F doesn't have. I also totally understand that like the TP-7 fits in your pocket and OP1F doesn't like literally fit in your pocket, though it's pretty darn portable. I mean, so yeah, I'm a little bit lost as to like people who are kind of, I mean, I get it. It's like proof of concept, right? And it's like, it's brand new and it's fun to like explore. I've seen a lot of people bouncing tracks back and forth of like layering tracks of like OP1F onto TP-7 and then playing that back into like OP1F tape and like bouncing back and forth. So like bouncing back and forth between devices, I guess is cool. I don't know. Like, yeah, I'm just a little bit lost in the workflow of like, if you got your OP1F there with the tapes and you can do all the different tape tricks on OP1F that definitely don't exist on TP-7. Yeah, if I got my OP1F laying around, guess I'm going to use that to like record the tape instead of TP-7, especially since there's just like little, you know, the community's really brought up like a lot of little details. Like, sure, you can scratch with the wheel, but like, and you can, when you're recording, you can like stop the wheel and that'll stop the recording, but you can't, as you're recording, scratch the wheel and have that be captured in the recording, right? You can't rewind and have it still be recording. You can do that on the OP1, right? Like you can mess with the tape speed, you can mess with the tape direction as you're recording. You can freehand record the tape reel on OP1. So yeah, in the same way that I'm a little bit lost on the transcription part with the phone, because you still need the phone, in terms of the tape functionality of like saying, this is, because before this came out, a lot of people were like, oh man, you know, the best part of OP1 is the tape, and we're going to get like a standalone OP1 tape with extra features. And it seems to kind of be like, not, I mean, obviously not that at all. Not even just not having extra features, but not even having the features of the OP1 tape, which I guess is not the point of it. But yeah, I'm still trying to figure that one out, why I would use this over anything else to bounce back and forth if that's what I wanted to do. I get it if you don't have the OP1 laying around, access to that, I totally get it. Then you could record on here, multi-track or like layer. Yeah, I don't know. Just trying to think out the workflow for that. Some people were asking about what kind of software you need to unpack multi-track WAV files. So I just use Audacity. Some people have been using Pro Tools. Somebody said there's a program called SOX, S-O-X. Never heard of that, but I think there's like, I mean, whatever, Google. There's like a ton of programs, but Audacity did great job of both. Like, I can take files from my computer and just layer them down into a wave and throw them on here, or I can take a multi-wave, record it on here, take it into Audacity and explode it out. Other thing to be aware of is like, if you MTP this to your computer, you can just get like a Finder window that will just pop up with a folder structure. You can just go to any of those folders, right? And you have like a multi-track wave. Some people have been trying to drag that wave file directly from that window into like Pro Tools or into whatever, Logic or anything, and it's been crashing a lot. So like a lot of people say just like do a local transfer. So like first just take the files from here onto your desktop, and then from the desktop just load it into your DAW. Seems to work better. Let's see, what else? Oh yeah, what kind of audio files can this play? So far I found that this plays WAV files, multi-track WAV files, and FLAC files. It doesn't play MP3s. It doesn't play M4As. Yeah, I don't know. That's what I found out so far. It seems like that's what everybody says, right? Like it plays waves great, it plays FLAC no problem, but everybody's looking for the MP3 and it's definitely not there yet. In terms of Bluetooth connectivity, it will connect Bluetooth to OP1 field. It connects Bluetooth to TX6, Bluetooth to OB4, and obviously then Bluetooth to your phone. And the only functionality out of all that so far is to the app on the phone, right? Like it Bluetooths to the app for the transcription. Other than that, it finds all the devices. It actually connects to everything. I haven't tried with the ortho remote yet, but yeah, so far there's been no functionality. Somebody had a really cool idea that this could at some point turn into an ortho remote, right? Like if there was like an ortho remote menu that you could just click on, and then you have like your ortho remote here for like your OB4 volume or whatever else you use your ortho remote for, your OD11. Be pretty cool. And last thing to mention, like tying up loose ends here before we do the DJ set, is that there's no MIDI control yet. Like there's MIDI control, like seems to be some sort of MIDI control possibilities, but nothing, no functionality as of yet. Sorry, just building up the DJ setup here. I forgot two little things. One is that somebody was asking Bluetooth headphones or Bluetooth speaker, like can you Bluetooth to some headphones? No, you can't. And can you hook up like Bluetooth to a speaker for audio out? Nope. And oh yeah, the other thing too is like the multitrack wave file. And some people were thinking that like, you know, in the internal storage, if I multitrack, let's say 3 inputs in, is it going to have 3 actual like 3 different wave files? And it's not. It's just one wave file that's called a multitrack wave file that has 3 layers that you can split out in any number of programs, right? And then you can take those files and smoosh them down into like one wave, basically one wave file with many tracks in that one wave file. So it's not splitting it out into actual, you know, if you're doing the 12 channel N, you're not going to get 12 separate wave files. You just get one that you split out, or you can split it out in a utility program or split it out inside your DAW. So, all right, let's get some cables here and put this one TX6 in DJ mode. Here we go, grand finale. We got TX6 in DJ mode. It means that fader 1 fades between channels 5 and 6. So I got this TP-7 going in channel 6. I got this TP-7 going in channel 5. Over here to the left is channel 5, the right's channel 6. And then once again, I'm just running the audio out into my field so I have a little bit of a speaker there. So let's see how it works. I have a track loaded on each of these that's the same BPM, should be the same loop length. I was trying it out, it drifts a little bit. It's not like a very good sync. I mean, they're really short loops, so I probably just don't have a very accurate loop. Whatever, here we go. DJ setup. Okay. I mean, people were asking, can you do like real turntablism with this setup? I mean, I guess in theory, you could, if you could actually scratch and I don't know though. It'd be pretty tough. And you, like, how do you, on TX6, like do some crossfader? Get some cow effect. Now we got some real DJ going on here. Well, hey, check it out. Thanks for hanging out for the review. Really appreciate you sticking around this long. If you got any questions, put them in the comments. I probably won't have any time to get to them, but it'd be good to know what people are thinking about. That's super fun. Yeah, I think I gotta stop recording and keep playing. All right, see you next time for the CM15 review.